and I do follow the 10 Commandments. And if I believe that the practice of abortion should be banned, that is primarily morals. Pero pag laws, these are mandatory in nature. And dapat lahat tayo, regardless of whether you are a professional or not, you must comply. Okay? So it is actually important, no, to take into consideration the different ethical issues in the research process. Because as you will find out later, ine-evaluate yung magiging bunga or benefits nung research. Especially sa proposal. Talagang kinikilatis ng maigi yung methods to make sure that we won't be harming other people, which are our participants or subjects. So ethics is primarily concerned with the considerations of prioritizing the safety and welfare of our participants or subjects. Actually, iba ang term na participants and sa subject. Because if you are going to subject an animal into the experimental condition, they are considered as subjects. Pero pag tao, yung sasalang sa atin, they are called participants. And ultimately, responsible research should not compromise the welfare of the people na inaaral natin. Instead, we should maximize the benefits na maaari nating makuha. And also, kaya tayo may code of ethics para maiwasan na din yung potential legal problems. So, kung sakali man, no, in the future, gisahin kayo ng panel of scholars when it comes to your research, please take it as a constructive criticism that could further prevent you from being held responsible. Okay? So, yan po ang benefits kung bakit natin kailangan aralin ang research ethics. So, ang code of ethics natin, especially sa research, nagsimula yan through the Nuremberg Code of 1947. During this time kasi, it was the Nazi era. So, alam naman po natin na during the Nazi era, may discrimination against the Jewish people. And until ngayon, unfortunately, may discrimination pa rin laban sa mga Jewish people. And that they were subjected to unethical treatment. Like, inaabuso yung kanilang katawan until they pass away. And maswerte na lang kung meron pang makasurvive. Next, we also have the Belmont Report. So this was a byproduct of the Tuskegee syphilis study. So the researchers injected a virus to a minority of people. So These people are Black people and talagang sinamantala sila out of their vulnerability. And in the Belmont report, ito yung mga nakasulat. So first, respect for persons. So respect not because they are entitled, but see them as people who have their inherent value. Okay? Regardless of whether or not they are vulnerable. Wag na wag na wag nating sasamantalahin. Next, beneficence. So, you must conduct an in-depth risk and benefit analysis. Because for something to be ethical, the benefits must outweigh the risks. And lastly, justice. Pantay dapat ang tingin natin sa ating mga participants. Any questions so far? Okay. So we have here an institutional review board. So for some institutions, meron silang ganito, no? Wherein they have panel of experts that do evaluate the ethicality of the proposals. So before you submit, sorry. So before you undergo pala your proposal defense, you will be required to submit it through an IRB or Research Ethics Committee before you can present your proposal. Just so, para masiguro na walang butas yung iyong isasagawang study. By butas, it means it should be free from any potential harm or kaya naman minimal lang yung harm na mabibigay natin doon sa ating mga participants or subjects. So, in our textbook, the authors define those who are at risk. So, the subjects at risk are basically those participants or subjects that will be experiencing the undesirable effects of the treatment na ibibigay natin. And we should always consider doing a risk and benefit analysis. For example, kasi in drug studies. So, even though ginagawa natin siya, but it is preferred na we stay out of it na lang. Because drug studies can potentially put our participants or subjects in a certain amount of risk as a matter of the side effects nung drug na gusto niyong itest. But there are some exceptions because drug studies can somehow be conducted using animal subjects, which we will be discussing later on. So here is the process of how an IRB reviews research proposals. So as long as they are satisfied dun sa mga revisions na ginawa natin, then dun lang kayo makakapag-proceed to conduct your study. So after the IRB, dito na tayo sa informed consent. So informed consent must be seen as a legal document. Kahit sabihin natin na hindi naman siya nakaprint sa legal size bond paper. Instead, I want you to treat it like a legal document. Because again, may responsibility tayo sa kung ano ang mangyayari sa ating mga participants or subjects. So, pinapresent ito before you conduct the study. So, pasadahan lang natin yung nature ng ating isasagawang study, then our participants or target participants must sign it, which shows their agreement to fully participate in the study. And at the same time, it must be written in clear and understandable language. Preferably, layman's terms lang yung ating gagamitin. And we should refrain from making use of jargons. Is that clear? All right. So the informed consent is also one of the documents na babasahin din ng IRB. And kasama pa din sa hinihingi ng IRB yung inducements or rewards na pwedeng makuha ng ating mga subjects or participants. Okay? Also, take note that it is important to assure that all data will remain confidential, regardless of whether it's an experimental study or not. Siguruhin natin that we respect the privacy of our participants. So, kung interview, make use of codes. Pwede natin sabihin dito, Marites number 1, Marites number 2. Yun yung anonymity. Pero pag confidentiality, you are only reporting what your data is. Nakuha? All right. Next, we have the components of informed consent. So unang-una, yung information, just a brief sentence or background of the nature of your study. Next, understanding. So informed consent also entails that our participants are capable of being mentally competent, meaning they are in the proper state of mind before they agree to participate in the study. Lastly, voluntary participation. So we must allow them to quit if ayaw na nila. That also reflects the importance of the moral guiding principle of autonomy. So kung ayaw nila, do not coerce or force your participants into taking part in the study. Instead, allow them to leave once they have told you that they want to quit. Also, sa understanding naman, if for example, gusto nyo na children yung inyong mga participants sa study, please be sure to inform the parent about it. So magko-consent si mother or father or any legal guardian, but they must also show their assent na they are also willing to participate in the study. Okay? Nagets po ba yung policy regarding informed consent? So, even though kailangan ang informed consent for you to conduct a study, may mga instances naman na hindi siya kailangan. Number one, normal practices or routine activities. So for example, last week or last meeting, di ba? Hindi ako nakapag-present ng slides do sa television, unfortunately. Pero, if I measured the effectiveness of my instruction na pinapabayaan ko kayong magbasa nung libro, ayon, that can be an exception. So, pwedeng hindi ako magbigay ng informed consent. Okay? Next, kapag yung questionnaires natin ay anonymous. So, bigla lang pinakalat. Or if our research design is observational method. Because ayaw natin na mahuli tayo ng ating mga participants. And lastly, there are no risks related to violating our code of ethics. Okay, nagets? So number one, ulit, routine activities. Number two, anonymous questionnaires or even observational research design. And lastly, totally walang risk and violating our code of ethics. Now let's proceed to deception and full disclosure. Actually, okay lang naman, no, na magsinungaling tayo sa ating mga participants regarding the true nature of our study. But, syempre, violation siya nung informed consent wherein dapat you explicitly stated yung nature nung experimental study na gagawin. But, before you could deceive your participants, again, the benefits must outweigh the risks. Okay? And also, the right to withdraw must still be observed. And kung merong tanong yung ating participants, we just answer their questions. So deception can be characterized into two. Omission, small omission, meaning may hindi ka sinabi, which is intentional, pero commission. Talagang ginawa mo yung panlilin lang doon sa participants mo. Okay? Nagets yung principle on deception and full disclosure. Okay, so but during the end of the study, you must debrief. So, explain natin kung bakit natin ginawa yun and what our study is really about. Okay? So, here is an example of a study that used deception. All right. So that is one of the landmark studies na na-conduct sa ating field, which was Stanley Milgram's study on obedience. So, paano naging present yung deception dun sa study? Anyone? AC.
Sir, nung beginning po nung study, hindi po sila in-inform na gano'n po yung mangyayari since nagsinungaling nga po yung anong tawag dito, yung parang subject po na kunwari po nasasaktan. Kasi ang sabi po dun sa ano, sabi po dun sa mga kinuha nilang participants, ano lang daw po, study in memory lang daw po yung gagawin. So, hindi po sinabi sa kanila na ano, may sasaktan po, gano'n.
Yes. Very good. No? Akala nung mga subjects, it was a study about the effect of punishment on learning. Pero yun pala, it was about the obedience to authority. Now, what could be the potential distress na pwedeng ma-experience nung mga participants or yung mga teachers dun sa study? Siyempre, alam natin that Milgram only used an actor, or in an experimental study, it is referred to as a confederate. No? Ano sa tingin nyo yung potential distress na na-experience ng mga teachers in this study? Anyone? AC.
Sir, possible distress po sa kanila yung yung 'pag iniisip po nila kung may mangyaring masama po dun sa mga confederate po ba yun, sila po yung magiging responsible.
Yes, tama. And also, their potential insights about who they really are, 'di ba? Na sunod tayo ng sunod sa authorities, and it shows that we have such a dark characteristic that is a part of the dark triad potentially. All right, thank you for your response, AC. And now, another video. All right. So, ano-ano yung mga ethical guidelines na na-violate doon sa tinatawag na monster study ni Mary Tudor? Bea.
Yung isa po dun is yung pwedeng deception kasi yung mga children ay na-deceive about sa purpose ng study na yon kasi akala po nila makaka-receive sila ng speech therapy pero hindi naman po talaga. Another one is pwedeng lack of sa informed consent kasi yung mga bata po ay orphaned, meaning sila ay vulnerable and wala talaga silang guardian na makakapagbigay ng consent about the study. Yun po.
All right? Tama, no? That nagsinungaling na nga yung si Mary Tudor doon sa mga bata. She also caused a significant amount of harm, no? That nadala nila until they grew up. And also, even though it's a matter of gray area, no? Yung pagpapaalam doon sa institution or the orphanage. Because, again, sila lang, yung mga namamahala lang doon sa orphanage, yung pwedeng makapag-sign ng consent, no? How about other thoughts, Cedric?
Yung based dun sa video, yung mga ethical standards na violate, tulad ng sinabi ni Bea, lack of informed consent. Kasi dun pa lang sa word ng lack of informed consent, ibig sabihin hindi na na-brief yung mga bata o yung mga participants. Meaning, nagiging vulnerable na yung participant na kung saan it will lead to harm, na kung saan parang until now, napaka-unethical niya pa rin po.
All
Yung
right.
pinapansin.
Next, AC.
Sir, yung sa akin naman po, napansin ko po yung sa beneficence. Sabi niyo po, di ba, dapat the benefits must outweigh the risks. And halata naman po na hindi po ganun yung nangyari. So, yun po.
All right, thank you for that. How about Katrina? I saw her raise her hand.
Sa akin naman po, napansin ko po is, di ba po, nung sa first video, parang ang sinabi nila sa mga orphans is merong speech therapy. Then after the study po is parang nag-lack po ng debriefing and follow-up sa mga orphanage po. Kasi after the study po, wala man lang silang ginawa or no effect to debrief yung mga children po to offer yung speech therapy po na pinangako nila.
All right, thank you for that. You then.
Sa akin naman po, yung napansin ko pong na-violate is yung yung respect po, respect for persons. Kasi based po sa book, like, respect for persons maintains that every human being is an autonomous person with the right to make his or her own decisions about research po. Which is something na na-violate po talaga ng research. Kasi words are powerful po. In that case, nagkaroon po ng parang nagkaroon po ng doubt sa sarili yung mga bata hanggang sa lumaki sila. Well, para silang na-traumatize po dun sa mga sinabi nung mga researchers po. Meaning, parang hindi po sila na-respect as child as well as kung paano nila in-enunciate kung paano po nila brief yung mga bata which is kulang din po. Like yun nga po, debriefing po yung nangyari.
All right, thank you. Mariel.
So hello po. Naririnig po ba?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think yung yung lack of informed consent nga po, especially yung vulnerability po. Especially yung po nila, respondent po nila is yung orphan. And particularly sobrang daming population po ng orphan. And nakikita ko rin po yung potential risk po nun. And isa rin po is yung psychological harm po dun sa mga bata po. Like, pwede po mag-cause ng anxiety or pwede rin po mag-cause sa kanilang self-esteem na yung conscious po nila about dun sa speaking nila po. Ayun po.
All right, thank you. How about Joy?
Hi, good afternoon po. For me naman po is dun sa informed consent din po, which is yung justice. Since sabi niyo po, yung justice is dapat pantay na tingin po sa participants. Pero dito po kasi sa study na to, parang sinelect po nila yung orphans na yun as their subject because nakitaan nila na mas vulnerable yung population na yun. And then pinili din nila yun parang kasi mas accessible po yung orphan na yun since parang sa tingin nila is hindi mag-o-object yung mga nandun sa yung mga participants na nandun sa magiging study po nila.
So, I like how you brought up yung hindi mag-o-object, no? Yung orphanage, considering that malapit nga. But even though the orphanage mismo is a resource for the researcher, wala pa rin dapat na ginawang harm. And lastly, Jovi.
So para po sa akin is nakita ko po sa unethical issues, yung psychological harm po na nangyayari. Nagkaroon po ng consequences doon sa study na ginawa since yung mga bata po is mas lalo po sila naging conscious sa pagsasalita po nila. At the same time, yung interaction po is parang lumalayo po sila sa academic at yung sa communication sa family po nila.
All right. Thank you for all your responses. So now let's proceed to the next slide. Ayan. So from humans, dito na tayo sa animals. Okay? So in this slide, sabi is primates and other animals known to live in social groups in nature must be provided with opportunities to socialize. Meaning, hindi dapat natin nire-restrict yung kanilang environment before we use them as subjects sa ating mga study. And our textbook also discussed the IACUC, which is the Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee. So halos similar siya doon sa IRB. Pero tinitignan dito yung, for example, shelter nung mga animals. Next, tinitignan din yung procedure na gagawin mo for you to conduct your study. Okay? And the IACUC has specific standards on how we must care for our animal subjects before they undergo our experimentation. Okay? Ayan. So kung kayo ang tatanungin, no? Do you think it is better to use animal subjects for experimental studies? Cedric.
Sa akin po for me, it's depends po dun sa case na gusto mong aralin. Kasi magiging better ang animals for experimental studies if ang objective mo sa research mo is for animals, for the betterment for the animals. Pero if ang experimental studies na i-conduct mo naman is for human, syempre hindi better yung animal for experimental studies po. Ayun lang.
All right. Next, AC.
Sir, for me po, hindi po better gamitin yung animal sa experimental studies dahil, ayun po, medyo similar sa sinagot po ni Rosal. Pag behaviors po kasi, unless behavior po talaga ng animal yung, wait lang po. unless behavior po talaga ng animal yung aaralin, medyo malayo po yung behaviors nila sa tao. Tapos, isa pa po is yung, hindi po kasi sila, unlike ng mga tao, hindi po sila nakakapag-react, nakakapagsalita, ganyan. So, naa-abuse po sila na sa mata po ng mga researchers is benefit po sa kanila yun. Pero ayun nga po, hindi po siya ethical.
Okay, how about other insights or perspectives? Mariel.
Ang sagot ko po is nakadepende po sa situation. If yung situation po is about sa for dogs, like kunwari hindi po maaapektuhan yung living po nila or hindi po sila makaharm, I think okay lang po. But okay rin po if para sa person to give awareness po, something like that, na hindi rin po sila makaharm, siguro pwede po. Pero if makaharm naman po yung aso and hindi po sila comfortable dun sa research na ginagawa, I think it's a big no po.
All right. Any others? Abigail.
Good afternoon po, sir. For me naman po, katulad din po ng sagot nila is hati rin po, depende rin po sa situation. Kasi po, kung magkakonduct po tayo ng studies na regarding sa, for example po, ito na po sa human, ganun. Tapos, animals po yung gagamitin natin is disadvantage po kasi sila doon gawa ng hindi po nila ma-express yung nafe-feel po nila and sa mata rin po na researcher parang madali lang po sila i-manipulate. And good naman po siya gamitin na subject for research po since kapag ang research niyo po is tungkol sa pagpapalawak po ng knowledge regarding po sa animal. Yun po.
All right. Lastly, Joy.
Hi, good afternoon po. For me po, same lang din naman po sa others na it depends on sa gagawin po na study. Pero kasi po, sorry po, medyo maingay. Yung po kasi animals is pwede po siyang maging good models if ever man po na parang kailangan nating aralin yung about sa human biology. Parang mas maiintindihan natin using animals. Pero po kasi, since pinag-aaralan natin ang research ethics, pwede rin po siyang mag-raise ng ethical concerns kasi yung animals po is nagsasuffer din po. And yung result na gusto po nating makuha is hindi naman po parang palaging ma-apply o magiging kapareha ng result na ina-expect natin as magiging result sa humans. Ganun po. Thank you po.
All right. So honestly, makakabuti din naman ang paggamit ng mga animals as long as mami-minimize yung harm na dulot ng ating study sa tao. Okay? And magandang example dito ay yung mga drug studies. So, to lessen the harm na pwedeng manggaling sa mga side effects ng drugs, we can make use of animals. But, bear in mind that we should be responsible in making sure that the animal subjects that we will be using in our study will be properly taken care of. So, andun yung binibigyan natin sila ng pagkain, hindi sila restricted sa kanilang environment, no? Also, siguraduhin natin that they are not being abused. Pero, may question pa din when it comes to the life of animals. So, ang suggestion dito is that if sakali tayo mismo ang mag-terminate sa buhay ng animal, we should terminate their life ASAP. Meaning, wag na natin patagalin yung kanilang suffering. Okay? Nagets? Yes, Rafael?
One of the example po ba ng experimental research yung sa mga sabon-sabon po, like gluta po na ginagamit po nila yung mga rabbit para po i-test if ano po ba i-test if okay po ba yung result ng ano.
Again, you're not audible. Sorry. Maybe you can
Yeah.
type your question sa chat box.
Clinic po.
Cedric?
Ma'am, siguro yung pinapertain niyo po is it ethical po ba yung animal cruelty na nangyayari po ngayon? Kasi ayun po yung concerns po nowadays po.
Yeah. Again, as long as may benefits tayong makukuha, and at the same time, if we are really planning to terminate the life of our animal subjects, we must no longer prolong their suffering. Yun yung standard when it comes to animal research. Okay? Nagets? All right. So here are two fundamental questions behind animal research. So number one, tanungin muna natin kung may benefits ba yung makukuha natin. Next, is it allowable na tayo as humans will cause pain, suffering, and death? So again, we must allow pain as long as there is a large or malaking benefit na makukuha to make an animal, regardless of ibon man yan, pusa man yan, aso man yan, no? To be a sacrificial lamb. Okay? But we also have to understand that animals are also capable of feeling some emotions. Just like sa kung paano napapamahal tayo sa ibang animals or sila ay napapamahal sa atin. But the question there is, it can somehow deplete yung tinatawag nating objectivity. Alright? Nagets? Sorry. So, bear in mind that the benefits of conducting animal research is not abrupt. Hindi siya biglaan. But, it can help us start something greater for the future of mankind. So, ang example dito is yung chlorpromazine, which is an antipsychotic drug. And also, bear in mind that psychologists rarely use dogs and cats. Instead, we use rodents, birds, rats, mice, gerbils, hamsters, and pigeons. Because their structure, no, is somehow similar to the structure of our brain. So, have you heard of the subfield in psychology that is known as comparative psychology? May nakarinig na po ba nun? Okay, so I think wala pang nakarinig nung comparative psychology, but again, bear in mind that they have the highest estimates when it comes to similarity sa structure ng humans, no? Pero bakit kailangan silang gamitin considering that hindi naman 100% similar? So number one, we do not have any options. So sila nila yung gagamitin natin. Next, it is unethical to use humans. Lastly, without further ado, conduct research with other animals that may be similar to us. So it's a process of really probing onto something regarding the similarity or estimates ng similarity between an animal and a human. No? Also, naka-highlight din dito, psychologists rarely use dogs and cats. Bakit kaya? Anyone? Bakit sa tingin niyo is kailangan or we should avoid from using dogs and cats? Cedric.
Ma'am, as far as I know po, it's violates the law. Kasi according to the law po natin sa Philippines, is bawal po talagang gamitin yung mga pets, especially for dogs and cats. Kaya po bawal siya gamitin for experimental research po.
Okay. Any other answers? Any other answers? Or i-share ko na, yung sagot. Rafael?
Rinig po, sir.
Yes.
Sa tingin ko po, kaya po di ginagamit po yung dogs and cats. Kasi po parang malapit po sila sa tao. And once po kasi na, alam niyo po yung pag na-dedo sila, parang malaking epekto po kasi yun sa magiging behavior po ng isang tao.
All right. Thank you for that, no? Because yun ang tamang sagot. Yung sinabi ni Rafael. Dogs and cats are domestic animals. So, we often treat them similar to how we treat our family members. And since treat natin sila similarly to our family members, nawawala yung objectivity. Okay? All right. Next, bear in mind that drug addiction is one of the studies na tayo ay makikinabang from animal research. Because once na tayo ay ma-addict, no? Ang nangyayari sa atin, our physical structure, so may it be the brain or other parts of our body, alongside our psychological well-being, they will deteriorate at once. So, pwedeng sabihin dito na bigla-bigla mo na lang inuuntog yung sarili mo. If you are to partake in a study that sought to understand drug addiction. Okay? And here are some of the benefits that we got from animal studies. So, ayan. So, it was found out that millions and billions ng neurons natin may lessen in number habang tayo ay tumatanda. As a result, it enabled us to understand the physiological mechanisms behind forgetting. Next, pwede rin, no, among children, 5 to 7 years old. It was found out that they can also be capable of learning 5 languages at once. And that is some of the benefits that we got from animal studies. But bear in mind the 3 R's of animal research. Number 1, reduce. So kung maaari, konti lang yung ating animal subjects. Next, refine. So maybe, pwedeng baguhin yung ating isasagawang procedures. And lastly, replace. So kung may potential alternative, we can replace the use of animal subjects. All right? Is everything clear? And now, here is another video that can help summarize yung discussion on human and animal research.
Sir, excuse me po. Wala po ba talagang audio?
Again?
Wala
It's
pong audio yung video.
Oh, mal. Ayan, okay na? Alright? So, na-enhance ba or nakatulong yung video when it comes to enhancing your learning about research ethics? Okay, seeing plenty of hearts and that is good. No? And hopefully, hindi lang natin siya alam by concepts, yung mga ethical guidelines, instead, isabuhay din sana. Alright? So now let us move to our next topic, which is fraud in science. So basically, fraud in science involves, number one, data falsification. So, dinodoktor yung ating mga datos. Next. So, mahalaga ang peer review when it comes to the publication of our research studies. Because chine-check talaga ng bawat expert yung ginawa mo entirely. And for some quantitative studies, meron akong nakikita na link na kung saan kapag clinic ng isang researcher yung link sa footer ng paper, it will direct the researcher to see the data. So dito papasok yung importance ng pagkakaroon ng appendix sa ating mga publication. No? Also, kung halatang pineke, it won't be successfully replicated. So, uulitin yung ating research procedure pero may fine tweaking. So, kung medyo mali, then sorry to say, your publication will be rejected. And you might also lose your merits. And lastly, we are also concerned with plagiarism. Gumagamit ng ideas ng iba, tapos aasta tayo na tayo mismo yung nagsabi nun statement. So as much as possible, since this is a research course, I am encouraging all of you to cite properly. And ituturo ko naman sa inyo yung proper APA format. So, wag masyadong ma-anxious regarding that. Okay? So, here are some of the different types of plagiarism. Clone. We submitted others' work, tapos nag-claim tayo na atin yun. And sadly, may mga ganyang cases na nangyayari to the point that the original person who published that study, nawawalan siya ng tamang copyright dun sa kaniyang publication. Next, Control C, copy-paste. So, iwasan natin yan. As opposed to copy-pasting, you must paraphrase. So, rewrite the sentence or piece in the article as how you understand it, but whether at the beginning of the sentence or by the end, Make use of proper in-text citations. Ayun lang. Next, find replace. So you simply replace a single word based on its synonym. Next, remix. So paraphrasing from other sources and making the content fit together seamlessly. So halos similar lang din sa copy-paste, no? Pero pinag-combine mo lang yung multiple resources dun sa isang paragraph. Next, recycle. So if you have a previous work tapos hindi mo na sinite kahit gawa mo yun, I'm sorry to say, that is recycling. So kahit sarili mo, isa-cite mo pa din. Next, hybrid. Combining perfectly cited sources with copied passage without citation. Next, mash up 404 error, aggregator, and retweet. So regardless of the types of plagiarism, let us all prohibit ourselves from doing so. So I am encouraging everyone to be responsible when it comes to properly citing works of other researchers. So pagkabasa niyo, you will determine whether or not may magandang idea si researcher 1, researcher 2. Tapos, we extract those ideas and try to paraphrase it. Meaning, we will be writing the same sentence as if it is our own, and at the same time, we are citing the researchers or authors. Okay? And here is the plagiarism spectrum from Turnitin. Okay? So you must be able to show your original thinking. And original thinking will be evident once you have properly paraphrased the ideas that you borrowed. And lastly, we should get to this point, no? So, ensuring the welfare of our participants or subjects alongside ensuring that our reports or publications are accurate and honest, diyan tayo magpo-progress as a science. So meaning, it is our ethical responsibility. So hindi naman tayo natututo ng research ethics just for the sake of learning it. Instead, as psychology majors, you are all, or we are all being invited to share the same ideals nung ating mga forefathers sa ating field. Okay, are there any questions? Okay. So now, I have some questions for the class. Which one valuable research cannot be done with humans? Paunahan. Anyone? You may type your answers sa ating chat box if in case hindi ma-open ng mic. Mardu.
Sir, yung about po sa drug addiction po.
Very good. We cannot conduct studies amongst our fellow humans when we are studying drug addiction. Thank you for that. Next, what are the 3 R's that we should remember? Yes, you then.
The 3 R's po are reduce, refine, replace po.
Very good. Next question. What are some key considerations that we should take to minimize the harm to animal subjects? AC.
There are some considerations we can take to minimize the harm done to animal subjects is, ang naisip ko po first is to look for alternatives. So kung may, just like yung discussion po earlier, kung may other materials or objects naman po na pwedeng paggamitan dun sa specific study is, why not yun na lang po para hindi po maka-apekto ng animals. Or kung sa situation naman po na ang magiging ending is mamamatay yung animal, do not prolong the suffering of the animals na lang po. Yun po.
Alright, tama. How about Katrina? Any answers or any ideas?
Kapag po mag-work tayo sa animals or gagamitin natin yung animals sa study natin, we should consider their safety po and welfare po.
Alright. You then?
We should also, tawag dito, use yung tamang animal po sa tamang research na gagamitin po. Kasi kapag mali po yung ginamit nating animal sa research na gagawin natin, sayang lang po yung buhay ng animal.
Alright. So here are the answers. So una, presence of a trained psychologist for animal experiments. So dito mapasok yung ethical principle when it comes to competence. Meaning, we must be capable of doing what we are seeking to measure, and at the same time, fully exerting or asserting our control over the conditions, may it be for animal studies or human studies. Next, nabanggit din that if the animal subject is to be terminated, do not prolong the agony. So, kung papatayin po natin, wag nang patagalin pa yung kanilang suffering. And lastly, appropriate consideration for their comfort, health, and humane treatment. So, kung saan man natin sila itatago, it should promote their welfare. Alright? Next, what are 4 areas of scientific dishonesty? How about the others? Rafael?
Football po ba, sir?
Sorry, medyo choppy. Mary Rose?
Audible po ba, sir?
Yes, you're audible.
Yung ano po, plagiarism.
Yes, that's one. Ano pa? Dea?
Data falsification po.
Very good. Next, Rafael. You may type your answer sa chat box. How about Jovi?
Peer review po.
Okay. Lastly, Cedric.
Sir, is it publication po?
Okay. I will accept that. Abby. Okay. So here are the 4 areas. AJ, do you have any answers?
Yes po. It is possible po ba yung authorship misconduct?
Again?
Authorship misconduct po.
Okay. Sige, we'll accept that. Karil?
Possible po ba yung misrepresentation po?
Yes. Abby?
Falsification po, sir.
Okay. So the 4 areas of scientific dishonesty are as follows. So number 1, fabrication and falsification of data. Again, dinodoktor natin yung data sa ating study even if we wrote a sound methodology. Next, non-publication of data. So the moment we do not publish or become transparent about our data, the moment na kahina-hinala na as to whether or not ginawa mo ba yung study or hindi. Next, faulty data gathering procedures. So again, if you are going to make use of other research instruments, you must be capable of demonstrating the right competence to gather your data effectively. And lastly, plagiarism. So we are using another person's ideas and present it to others as if it is our own work. All right? So yung mga nakapag-recite, Yuden, Marlu, AC, Katrina, Mary Rose, Bea, AJ, Karil, and Abby. Since you participated, you are exempted from taking quiz number 2. Okay? And for the others, you have to complete the quiz or the second module quiz. Okay, just to wrap up our discussion on research ethics. So, yes, Karil?
May ask lang po, sir, about po sa yung sa consent po. 'Di ba sabi niyo po sa yung sa mga bata po na minor po is kailangan po ng informed consent po. Paano po pag ang participants po ay yung Alzheimer's or yung mga bata pong with autism or yung may learning disabilities po? Informed consent pa po ba yung agreement po?
So, informed consent, but it is to be signed by the legal guardian. Okay? But still, they must give their
Okay po.
assent. I think nasa book din yan, yung assent, that the children are also willing to participate dun sa study. All right. So here's a wrap. Yes, Bea?
Sir, clarify ko lang po, yung diagnostic exam po ba namin, ayun po yung magsaserve as quiz number 1?
No, it won't be recorded. So therefore, you have 2 quizzes. The
Okay
module
po,
1
thank you
quiz
po.
and the module 2 quiz. So just to give everyone a heads up, it is a timed quiz and both of your quizzes are in essay format. Okay? So make sure that your responses will be enough to merit a certain number of points. And for those who I have said na exempted, you can just put on the text box exempt for both items. Malinaw? All right. So to wrap up our discussion for today's lecture, so bear in mind that ethical decision making does not simply involve yes or no decisions. So dito papasok yung idea behind the risk and benefit analysis, wherein the benefits that we will be getting from our study should outweigh the risks. Next, ethical research practice is not performed according to a set of permanent rules. It is an evolving and dynamic process that takes place in historical and cultural context. So, ini-invite tayo na huwag tayong magpaka-rigid when it comes to understanding our code of ethics. Instead, we should also be flexible sa kung alin ba talaga yung makakabuti base doon sa situation. All right, so are there any other questions? So if wala ng questions, class is officially dismissed. So gawin nyo na lang yung quizzes ninyo. And at the same time, mag